Can't paint, I can't draw. I've been using Dharma dyes for probably more than 30 years. Dealing with fabric just feels so natural to me. And it's such a textural thing. I love the feel of fabric. I love what I can do with it. I get so much from my students. I learn so much from them. They try things that I would never think to try. I'm Lynn Kulish. I'm a fiber artist, I'm a teacher, and I'm an author. So probably about 30 years ago, my mother and I went to the Dharma trading store in San Rafael, and we were looking at yarn because she was going to knit me a sweater. And we were looking around and we saw this skein, this beautiful skein of hand-dyed silk yarn. And there was only one of it, which is obviously not enough for a sweater. One of the people working there kind of came up to us and said, you know, you can do that yourself. And we said, what? And she explained to us how we could dye the silk yarn and just do it ourselves. And so we did. We bought 3 colors of dye and enough silk for my mother to knit the sweater. And that's how I got started dyeing. I always sort of made art quilts. I was never a traditional quilter. So dyeing my own fabric for quilts was just sort of the perfect next step for me to really feel like the quilts I was making were really my own. Why do I do ice dyeing? Because it's really so cool, pun intended. You get really, really cool results. And there's lots of ways that you can combine ice dyeing with other things I was doing, you know, like tie-dye and shibori. So ice dyeing was just sort of the perfect next step for me. I'm kind of a serial artist, so to speak. I love trying different things. I worked for 20 years for C&T Publishing, and for people who aren't familiar with it, C&T publishes a range of books primarily on quilting, but also on some other crafting. And so as I was working there, I was just introduced to a lot of other things. Paint and things that go with paints, textile paints. So I was playing around with paint on fabric to see what I could do. That led me to play with printing images on fabric. So I've just followed kind of different paths as things have come up. I love the idea that I'm creating something out of nothing. It's from my head, it's from my heart. I think every artist has creative blocks, and it just goes along with being an artist. There's lots of ways to start to get around it. I do tend to work improvisationally. What that means is I need to know one of 2 things. I either need to know where I want to end up, and then I have to figure out how to get there, or I need to know how I want to work and see where it leads me. So for example, I might have a stack of fabrics that I've dyed that I really like, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to go together. So I start putting things up on the wall and seeing where it leads me. And it's an intuitive process. I also, very firmly in my head, I have the idea of basic design principles. So I'm not just throwing things up willy-nilly, but I'm thinking about how to make something that's going to be cohesive. But just playing with the fabric and sewing things together sort of helps get me back into that process of making things. I love teaching in a way that's almost my primary thing these days, is taking what I've learned and being able to teach others and to give them hopefully the techniques and the confidence for them to feel like they're artists as well. When the light bulb goes off, you know, and you've been explaining something to somebody that they didn't understand before, and all of a sudden they get it and they're able to use it, and that's just so satisfying about teaching. Working at C&T Publishing, it made it easier for me to write my own book on fabric dyeing. I was an editor there, so I knew pretty much exactly what I wanted to go into the book and how to organize it. And because I really wanted the book to be a teaching tool, I was able to write the book in the same way that I teach. Right now I've got 3 dyeing classes on the Creative Spark learning platform. You buy the class, it walks you through everything. You get a very extensive handout. There are online videos. I explain to everybody where to get dyes and what dyes to use, and of course all of my examples are using the Dharma dyes because that's what I use. And you just do it in your own time frame. So it's a great way to learn at home at your own pace. Hi, I'm Lynn Kulish, and these are my Dharma Essentials. Why do I keep coming back to Dharma? I love the products, I love the dyes, I love the quality, I know what I'm getting. To be honest, I'm not too far from the retail store, so it's pretty easy for me to pop over there and wander through the store and look at things. I get what I need there, or if I have it shipped, it shows up. If I'm teaching somewhere and I need to have it shipped, the same thing, I order it, it goes out. I usually get stuff within a couple of days. But I think it's the range of products, it's the range of colors, and I know what I'm getting, I know it's good quality. One of the things about working improvisationally is that sometimes things don't turn out, and that's just what happens. But sometimes things do turn out. It's fun to be able to, show those quilts to people and talk about how I got from here to there and ended up with something that I'm really happy with. I think the most fulfilling things is that, when something you've been working with for a while turns out and you really like it, I don't plan everything out, so I don't always know where it's going. And when I'm happy with where it ends up, it's a great feeling. So it's like, just don't be afraid and try stuff. Art that you make isn't necessarily good. That doesn't matter. It's something that you've created that hasn't existed before.